Why is Teofimo Lopez an underdog going into a potential fight with Shakur Stevenson? I mean, Shakur is the one challenging Teofimo at 140 when Shakur's never even fought there. So that has to be testament to how good Shakur Stevenson is. If he's coming in as the favorite against Teofimo Lopez in a fight where Shakur's never fought at 140, he's been fighting, 26, 30, 35. 35 is an easy weight class for Shakur to make, and he's jumping up to 140 because he's confident enough and feels like he can beat Teofimo Lopez. That's just crazy, but the odds makers have it heavily in favor of Shakur Stevenson. Now, I'm picking Shakur, but it's just crazy that he is the favorite going into his first fight at 140 against not just any 140 pounder, but arguably the best 140 pounder in the division right now, Teofimo Lopez. And I think people should put more respect on Teofimo Lopez's name. And, I don't favor him. I think Shakur is probably going to win the fight by decision, but I don't count Teofimo Lopez out because we've seen time and time again, whenever we count out Teofimo Lopez, whether it's Lomachenko or Josh Taylor, or even in the Arnold Barboza fight, some people were even saying, Teo doesn't have a chance. But of course, when Teo hears a big name, he hears people kind of counting him out. That's when he performs the best. And I think we can expect that against Shakur Stevenson. The big question is, will it be enough? Because all of these guys that Teofimo has faced on the big stages, Lomachenko, Josh Taylor, they've kind of been come forward fighters, which Teofimo Lopez likes. When Teo has to kind of hunt for his food, he doesn't look as sharp, he doesn't look as good and solid as he does like against a guy like Loma, against a guy like Josh Taylor. But you're dealing with a guy who stylistically is an ugly matchup for you. I respect Teofimo Lopez because if I were him, I'd be like, first of all, Shakur's not even in this weight class, so why would I fight him? And second of all, his style, he's just going to run. That's what a lot of fighters would say if they were offered a Shakur Stevenson fight, especially if you're a guy like Teofimo Lopez. But Teo's saying, hey, they're saying this dude's next up, that he's the best fighter in the division when it comes to, defense at 135. Sure, he can challenge me at 140. That's what Teofimo Lopez is saying. He's not ducking smoke. If this fight actually gets signed, which it hasn't gotten signed yet, but if it does go down, it's going to be an interesting fight. And I'm not saying it's going to be a all-out brawl. I don't think that Shakur Stevenson at his 140-pound weight class debut is going to brawl with a guy like Teofimo Lopez. I think that'd be silly, right? But you can expect that he's going to be incredibly sharp because he knows that Teofimo Lopez has pop. He's explosive, he's fast, he's physical, and, he has those fast switch reflexes that Shakur has as well. But Teo probably has more power. And then you have the other side where it's like, does Shakur trust his hands? We saw against a guy like Zepeda that, he was fine. He gets in the pocket, he can take a shot, but this is a new weight class. A guy like Canelo Alvarez obviously kind of got exposed by a guy like Terrence Crawford, but, in this particular case, it's not that big of a difference between Shakur and Teofimo Lopez, but you guys got to remember, Shakur makes 135 easy, and I wouldn't say Teofimo Lopez makes 140 easy. So you're talking about a dude fight night that's probably going to be around like 154 pounds. And then I don't know what Shakur is going to weigh. He might be at like 138, 140, I don't know, 145. It's just like, I feel like Teofimo Lopez needs to be big in there and impose that will and not be slow, but be, that physical presence that Shakur is going to have a tough time dealing with. Lean on and be physical, make it an ugly fight, make Shakur have to show that he's a dog, especially with a guy that's technically smaller than you. I think Teofimo is going to have to be very physical and show them how strong he is, because I think he's one of the most athletic fighters in boxing right now, but he's a little bit outmatched in when it comes to being a technician, when it comes to that master of distance. When you talk about distance, there's no master of distance like Shakur Stevenson right now. He's just so good at finding his way out of range. But Shakur and Teo know each other. We've seen with guys like Devin and Ryan Garcia that if guys have fought before, it's a different fight in the pros, but still, when a guy knows you, he might know you. Like Teo might know something that we don't. Because I'm sitting here thinking, I know Teofimo Lopez, at 140, he's the champion, and Shakur's never fought at 140. And Teo's probably the stronger, more muscular guy in there. So logically, you might say, all right, let's pick the guy that's already at the weight class. He's already champ at 140, but you can't. Me personally, I can't. I can't comfortably pick Teofimo Lopez, because Shakur consistently shows me that he's going to get the job done in his headspace. Even if the fight isn't entertaining, he knows how to get the job done. You know, we don't know what we're going to get from Teofimo Lopez. We could get the best version of Teo, surprises us, shuts everybody up, and somehow stops Shakur or beats him in a decision and is too explosive. I can see that too, but it's hard to bet against a guy like Shakur who's so on point, so sharp at all times. So it's going to be interesting. I got to favor Shakur right now, but hell of a fight between Teo and Shakur. Let me know in the comments who you guys would have. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.